This week's main activity is to watch the documentary Crip Camp. It's available through both Netflix and YouTube. You can watch it either way. Don't get a Netflix account to watch it. I've got the YouTube linked in our Blackboard module for this week. I could say so many things about this documentary, but I promise to keep this short. So I want to just say a couple of things. Number one, I want to warn you, there's some language and there's some very frank talk about sexuality. So if that is something you need a warning for, I always find it's best to know about that ahead of time. It is just a groundbreaking and amazing documentary about a camp. It's called Camp Jened in, I want to say the early 70s. It starts in 1971, and you're going to meet some of the counselors that did not have disabilities, some of the counselors that did have disabilities, and some of the campers who went to Camp Jened for the very first time with all other people with disabilities. This isn't just a camp story, because what happened out of Camp Jened and what they call Crip Camp is there became a group of friends that became internationally known disability advocates, especially Judith Heumann, who you'll see a lot in the film. I've watched a lot of this footage before. I've never watched the movie all the way through until last night as I prepared for this week. I also watched it with my husband, who does not have a background in education at all, let alone special education. His knowledge of that comes through me. We were all at once delighted by the film, but also in awe of everything that happened over our lifetime. As I said, we were born in the late 60s, early 70s, and all of what happens with law, advocacy, and these very strong individuals happened in our lifetime. I hope you enjoy the film very, very much. I've got discussion board prompts for you to answer after you see the film. If you've seen this before and you're familiar with it, please take a look at the discussion prompts. You don't have to rewatch all of the film, but I'd like you to dig back in a little bit. I'd like you to think about the models of disability, the 3 models of disability that we've already talked about. I'd like you to think about the medical model. I'd like you to think about the social model, and I'd like you to think about the charity model. I'd like you to quite possibly have your text to chapter 3 open and on your lap, or your computer or your phone out, and have you Googling the very 3 laws, and one of which is IDEA that we're studying for this week. I'm hoping you enjoy it tremendously. And I'm not going to ask you to write a paper or reflection. I will ask you to respond in discussion board. But I'd like you to think about all of the concepts, pieces, and parts that we've talked about in the first 6 weeks of this class, kind of coming together in this documentary. If you've watched it before, please watch parts of it again and enjoy. If you've never watched it before, please set aside some time this next week to make sure you're focused and just doing this. Enjoy, and we'll talk more about it in our discussion board.